I've been asked by a number of people to create this recording of how to import grades to Micrograde. This is for employees of the State Center Community College District. I'm not being sponsored by anyone. I just thought people might want to see how this is done. Presuming you know how to log in to WebAdvisor, you click your faculty link, and then you go to Class Roster and Micrograde Download. Select a term, and then Submit, and then pick the class that you want to download. I've blurred out all the names so that student IDs can be protected, and then you submit. That'll give you a text list of names which you then highlight and copy. I usually don't copy the first line, which says first, last, ID, phone, and email. And I use Control-C to copy. You can right-click on the screen and copy. And then if I have a second roster to download, I'll just back up through, go back, until I get to the point where I can download my second roster. And then I would choose a different class and go through that whole process again. So I've got this saved. And what I'll do is I will open up Notepad, paste the names in. This is a list of made-up names, and I will save it somewhere. For example, in my desktop, as something as simple as student.txt. Before I import this file to Micrograde, I often put in identifiers for students and import those at the same time. So if I have a Monday section and a Wednesday section, or a Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday section, you can put designators in. I'm tabbing here, by the way. Put designators in for those days, let's say, for example. So let's say this is a Wednesday and Tuesday group that all happen to be in one file. Let me save that, and then I'll import this into Micrograde, and I'll show you how to set up those student attributes as we do the import. Now what we'll do is open up Micrograde, and this is the window that you'll see if it's the first time you've used it. Click on New Class. Let's use Experienced User. And what we'll do first, as I said in the brief introduction earlier, set up student attributes. And I'm going to call this days. I'll add that attribute. And then within the days attribute, I'm going to set up Wednesday and Tuesday. I'll hit OK. And then what I'll do is I will go ahead and import those students. Import, user defined. There's my file. Open that up. It looks very messy, but you want to make sure that you select variable length and hit continue. Now, I've selected tab delimited files. King was the first name. Kong was the last name. That's student ID, is number 1. The email, you can scroll down and there's an email. And then W is the days attribute. So I'll click on days and I'll hit OK. It gives you this very scary looking import completed, and then you can go finished. And there's the students imported into the class. Now what you'll probably want to do is set up your grade standards. That is, what do you call A, B, C, and D? To do that, what you'll end up doing is going up under Edit, Grade Standards. They use a plus-minus system as the default. I typically will just delete a row, and let's call that my A's. And then I'll go here and delete a couple of rows, and I'll hit B, and delete a couple of rows, and hit C, and delete a couple of rows, and hit D, and then hit OK. I will save those changes. And then I'll start entering my grade categories. So to do that, we'll go to Edit, Categories. You notice there's Control-G and Control-Y. Those are shortcuts. Let's say I have reports, and I want that to be 30% of the grade. I have exams, and that'll be 30% of my grade. And you'll notice that it's saying total weights are 60%. You can actually make the total weights be more than 100%. That's really up to you on how you want to do things. And let's say my final is going to be 40% of the grade. Now you notice you probably will have more than one report, one exam, but you will only probably have one final exam. So you can make this a single assignment category and assign a particular number of points to it. So let's just call it 100. And then we can go up to exams, and then we can now add assignments. So we're going to enter exam 1, exam 2, exam 3, and exam 4. Now, you notice I put in a bunch of different scores. If you go back to the exams category, you can choose how to weight the exams. So you can have them be equally, or by points, or user specified. Now, if I weight them equally, even though this exam was only 1 point and this exam was 900 points, each exam is worth 25% of the exam total. So 25% of 30 would be 7.5%. Each exam is worth 7.5% regardless of the points that each exam has. Now, if you want to make the exams weighted by points, then what you can do is go back to the exams, go by points, and now when you go into this category, you'll notice exam 1 is 0.1% of the grade, exam 2 is 8.7% of the grade, exam 3 is 13%, and exam 4 is 78% of the 30% of the overall grade. If you go to reports, you can start adding reports. Oh, and I'll just say you can choose to do the distribution of points however you like. My experience has been to make them 100 points each, where 100 points actually represents the percentage of points they get on each exam. That way I can assign questions and not worry about points, and make the points more appropriate for grading rather than trying to get it to add up to 100. Okay, so add assignments under reports. We'll just call it report 1. If you hit enter, it'll take you down here. Let's make that 10 points. Report 2. Make that 10 points. And then report 3. We'll make that 40 points. Now, when you go, this is 33%, that's 33%, and this is 33%. But let's say in my reports I choose to do it by points, which is often what I do, because I will have reports that are worth more than others, but my exams typically are all worth the same percentage. I've now created it as points, so the third report is 66% of the grade, or 67% of the grade. The first report's only 17% roughly. Okay. So I've set up my categories and percentages, and I can hit OK. And now what I'll get is a bunch of windows. I'm a chemist, is student number 2. Let me go ahead and close this window for now, and let's look at this window. This is the class scores, and you'll notice it says untitled, untitled. Part of that is because I haven't saved this file yet, so let me save this file as demo. And now it says untitled demo, and that's because what I haven't done is I haven't modified the grading period to give it a name. And so this is called this spring 2014. Instructor name is K, and my email address is not here at email.com. You can choose to copy yourself on all emails. I would recommend that you don't do that. And student email domain, you can leave blank. Hit OK. And now this window says demo here for the file, and this is the grading period for the class. Now, let's say this is a window arrangement that you like. One of the things that you can do is save the window arrangement and then save the file again. And then whenever you open this program, this window arrangement will come up again. Just one word of warning, I saved these on Dropbox and I opened it on 2 different computers with 2 different resolutions. And as a result, sometimes the material doesn't show up properly on the screens. So I usually set the resolution for the lowest resolution monitor that I use. Now we're at the point where we can enter grades. So let's say on the report 1, Ima gets 1, You Are Not gets 5, Al Know It gets 6, King Kong gets 7, Our Lost gets 8, Hugo gets 10, and I'm Right, of course, gets 10 as well. A couple of ways you can display this. You can do it by ID number, or you could do it by score, or you could select users. I'm not going to get into that. But typically we just sort them by name, and in this case it's sorting by last name first. Notice that it puts a score for the student overall grade. This is their projected grade. Let's say on the first exam we do something like this. And you notice it updates these grades over here because 90% and 90% are clearly 90%. You get a 90% here. However, these 2 categories are equally weighted, so the average is in between. If you put a final in here, not that you would put the final in this early, you'll see how much of a difference this makes in their scores. Because it's a single assignment, a category worth 40% of the grade as I put it in. If you want to do attendance, go to Set Up Attendance, and you have to give a start date. So let's say this is 2/1/2014. And then you select the days of the class. Let's say I said Monday. Let's say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, for example. And then you put in the first day of class. So let's say 2/1/2014. And the last date of the class, let's say it's 6/5/2014. And you can hit OK. And that sets up the attendance. Now, I didn't put any holidays in, but you can enter those as well. And you can go to Mark Attendance. And this will give you all the dates for the semester, including the holiday dates if you didn't mark those. And I kind of like that because it's a little bit easier to navigate, because I like to use the keyboard. And then when you have the keyboard, you can just scan around really quickly and enter the attendance codes into these boxes. Now, if you have holidays in here, there's a glitch that when you're scanning across and you hit a holiday, you can't move the cursor using the keyboard. So that's why I don't like to put the holidays in until I absolutely have to at the end. So I hit OK there. The other thing I'd like to point out is we have attendance codes that are available once you set up attendance. I typically use present. I will put a P in there. Tardy, I typically put an L in there because that's what I think of as late. Excused, I put in an E. And truant, I usually put in an A, and I will sometimes change that to just say absent. So I have, well, almost looks like I have please there, but hit OK. And now when I go to students and I go to mark attendance, you notice it all says that they're there. It's present, so it's positive attendance all the way across. But let's say somebody, as you're going down, know it becomes late. So I'm going to go to keyboard, and he comes in late, so I'll put in an L. King Kong is absent because he didn't fit in the room. And Mr. Lost was not present because he got lost. And of course, Hugo Ware and I'm right are always there. All right. You can also, in your reports, you can print out the attendance by students, by day. You can also print an attendance grid. Again, it's based on this case on the week or the start date and the end date for your attendance grid. So let's say you make that the attendance grid. Current class to the screen. This is what you'll get. You can also change it to landscape, and then you can go on and print it through your printer. Now, one last thing, and this could be a sticky subject, it has to do with curving. Micrograde has a means to curve single assignments. I don't really like the way Micrograde handles assignment curving, but you can go to grade standards, and let's say you want to change the grades for a let's say the final exam because everybody did so horribly. Curve the assignment, and now what you can do is choose where the A, B, C, and D are at. Notice how everybody got an F. So let's say make that 5 points, and then we'll calculate again. Now everybody got D's, and let's make that 10 points. Calculate that. Everybody got C's, and so forth. You can make that adjustment however you like. I would strongly recommend you curve not using Micrograde and just put the curve scores in there, but that's entirely up to you. The last thing to cover is reports. If you go to the reports window, you can do a number of different things. One of the reports I like the most is the statistical reports, where I can take a look and see how each of my students did. You can go to each assignment, let's say exam 1 or report 1, and see what the grade distribution is. You can change it to percent scores, you can put percents at the top, or you can use the count of each student at the top, high, medium, and low resolution, which doesn't really look that different when there's so few students in a class, but when you have a lot of students, it makes a little more difference in how the data appears. And you can also put grade labels on these reports. If you hit OK, then you can print this and stick it outside your office so that all the students can see how each other did. Another report that I find useful is the student summary. And in the student summary, you can select the categories that are given in the report. You can do an overall grade rank in the class. My students, oddly enough, really like this. They're very competitive, and so what they end up doing is trying to beat each other on exams and in the overall grade for the course. You can have a projected scores flag, but all the projected scores flag is the score that the students would get if no other grades were entered into the spreadsheet. Scores that are left blank are not counted. Scores that are entered are counted. And so a projected score is what you get as long as there's an assignment that has not been entered into the spreadsheet. Now, when you go to print this, you can print them on paper, but I almost never print anymore. I do the current class, or you can do the individual who's highlighted in the main roster on the grade roster on the left. And then you can also send it to an email. So if you set this to the current class and you do the email and you hit OK, then every student will receive an email with their grade in it. You can also edit a header to say things like, this is your grade for the semester. Have a good break. And that'll also get emailed out to them as part of the email. Now I said OK, you can give this thing a title. This is the subject line that they'll receive in their email, and you hit OK and it'll send. You can copy yourself on all mail, but that means you'll get an email for every report that you send out, and if you have 100 students, you'll get 100 reports. All right, so I don't recommend that you do that. Now, other things that are important to know how to do is how to filter your students. If you remember, I set up a student attribute called days, and I want it to be equal to, and let's say Wednesday, and if I hit OK, these are the students that are Wednesday. And if I go to students and I do Control A, I can look at all of them. And if I do Control F, I can select for a different subset of students, let's say Tuesday, and those are my Tuesday students. When you generate the reports based on the subgroup of students that you selected from your roster. I do Control A to get back to all the students. Suppose you have a student that, in this case, let's say you are not, got a 5 and did horribly on report number 1, and then you find out that he has hepatitis, which actually happened to me once, and was diagnosed, and so you want to excuse that report. All you have to do is hit Control E, and that report is now excused and is no longer in his overall grade. That's different than dropping assignments. If you notice here in reports, I can drop an assignment, like say one assignment for everyone, and then hit enter, and then what happens is the low assignment, now there's only one assignment in here, so it doesn't drop it. The low assignment for every student gets dropped in that instance. When a score has been modified, you'll notice a little asterisk shows up next to the score. That's to indicate the score has been modified. The other thing to make note of is, let's say a student gets a 0 on a report. And some students get scores on reports. This student's score is not included in his total because it's a question mark. It has to have a score in it in order to be included in the average. And for the total number of points, the total number of points is for this student, King Kong, excluding report 2's total points as well as the score. So in order for that to be counted either against him or for him, you have to put a score into that particular assignment. Now notice the score has to be from minus 99 to 99. 100 is not valid, so I'll hit cancel here. Let me say 75. And now the maximum score for this assignment is 10. Do you want to give a score 75? If you say yes, it essentially counts that as extra credit for the student. You'll notice what effect that has on their overall grade. Here's another handy trick. Let's say in report 3, you're just tired of grading papers. It's the end of the semester, and you just want to give everybody a grade. And as you go through, you find everybody is wonderful and did a great job on the assignment. You can, for your scores, just fill the scores with, let's say, 40. Hit OK, and every student got an A in that assignment. So I hope you found that video helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at my Fresno City College address.